Welcome back to Deadly Dissection. We are out of one holiday and now into another. So, all this month on the show, you can expect nothing but Christmas horror movies. And there's a lot to choose from, isn't there, Tasha?
Oh my gosh. So many. Like whether you want to go serious or schlocky or horrible, B, cheesy, whatever, like there's millions. It's
Yes.
insane.
Whatever your style of horror, there is a Christmas horror movie that probably fits that vibe. I know, like, going through all of these films and trying to figure out what we are going to cover on the show is not an easy task because I know for me personally, there are a ton of Christmas horror movies that I love.
Oh yeah. And most of the ones that I lean towards are like ridiculous. You really have to stretch to find any kind of meaning in them. Like, next week's
Mm.
and The Killing Tree and Jack Frost
Yeah.
and all of those. So, I
Yes.
think
Next,
Humpty Dumpty or the Cult of Humpty Dumpty is
the one
also like it takes place at Christmas?
does it?
I think so.
The Humpty
I feel
Dumpty
like there's
thing?
like Christmas decorations at least. It's probably not like a Christmas horror, but
Oh, look, if it's got Christmas decorations in it, it's fair game,
it
right?
counts. Right.
I'll have to go check that one out because I don't remember that. It might be. I'll have to go see it. I'll have to watch it again and see. But
Always
yes,
worth a repeat.
next week we are doing the mean one. Tasha's pick for what I put her through this week in watching The Lodge. The
Yeah.
Lodge, you could almost kind of do with The Lodge what we do with what Drew does with Godless, the anti-Christmas, because
Oh, I
the
haven't seen that one.
no, you know how Drew on Godless, like every December
Oh, oh, oh. Yeah.
Christmas stories. This
Yeah.
is this is that because take what Christmas is supposed to be about and flip it on its head, and you have The Lodge. Family
Yeah.
togetherness? No, nothing
Yeah.
there.
Cozy.
No. It's the opposite feel of what you would think should be a Christmas movie. Nonetheless, it takes
Yeah.
place during Christmas, and this movie, and I'll hand it over to you in a minute, Tasha. But this movie, the the atmosphere is very claustrophobic.
Cold.
Um, it deals with a lot of trauma. It deals with religious abuse, a lady recovering from religious abuse. Lots of family trauma. There's trauma with the dad. There's trauma with the kids. There's trauma with the fiance. And the way this movie starts off is I guess about 10 or 15 minutes into this movie that it is going to go downhill fast and
I don't even think it's that long. It's what,
not
like,
even that long.
I think it's
Maybe
like 5 minutes in. I was like, what?
it is. This is one of those Christmas movies that if you're looking for a light, fun Christmas movie, this is not the one. This is something heavy. The Lodge is going to stick with you long after you watch it.
Yeah.
And this film has people in it that I'm sure horror movie and movie buffs are familiar with. You have Alicia Silverstone in it. She plays the biological mom. You
Yeah.
have Richard Armitage, who plays Thorin in The Hobbit. He plays the dad. And then you have Jaden Martell, who plays Bill in the It
And
movies.
it. Yeah.
He plays the
Oh,
son.
he was in Arcadian too.
Oh yeah, he is in Arcadia. And
Um,
then you've got Leah McHugh, who plays the young girl, the daughter, and then Riley Keough, who is also in It Comes at Night. She plays the fiance.
I was
Um,
just looking. Leah McHugh has quite the running list already. There's one she was in called "A House on the Bayou."
oh yes, House on the Bayou. I've seen that. She is in
Um,
that.
and "They Come Knocking," which I've seen on Hulu a couple times, but I haven't actually watched yet.
I haven't
And
watched that
then
one.
there's one called "Totem" in 2017. So she's apparently shaping up to be
We'll have to keep an eye on her.
quite the horror queen there.
We'll keep an eye on her. So, Tasha, you loved this movie, didn't you?
This
Tell everybody how
movie,
much you loved this film.
ugh, this movie made me so irrationally angry. I don't do. I mean, first of all, like my two big things that I try to avoid are dog deaths. Ripley and I have to cover her ears. She and I had the same problems with the same parts of the movie. And I don't really go for grief horror. Like, it's kind of dumb because I mean, with horror, there are bound to be things that happen that are going to be grief oriented. But I try to avoid like specifically aimed at hitting you in the feels, just
Hmm.
because life is horrifying enough without like adding some real elements to it through my media. Um, and holy crap, I mean, I don't the entire movie can be summed up as like what not to do as a parent. And I know usually like I try not to judge because I don't have kids other than, these two. Um but I feel very confident in saying don't do anything the way this dad does.
Yes, I
Like,
have kids, and I can say that confidently. This
oh my
dad, Richard,
god.
he's up there. He gets the award for one of the worst dads in a horror movie. Like
Oh yeah.
horrible
Absolutely.
decision making. Horrible
Um
decision making.
and I feel like I could go on forever if I try to ramble through the plot. But so the first couple of minutes, like we find out that Alicia Silverstone and her husband Richard, he goes by Richard in the movie, doesn't he?
Richard, yeah, he does.
Yeah. They're separated. She's getting the kids around to take them to his house, and she's out like she cries at one point, so you can tell she's having a hard time with it. Um, and when she gets there to drop the kids off, he tells her that he is going to be finalizing their divorce because he is going to marry this other woman. Um, and she goes home and promptly shoots herself. Um,
She sets
which
the dinner table and everything, and
Yeah,
it's
and she's sitting there, like, you can tell she's miserable, like, she's sitting there drinking a glass of wine, she, like, takes her necklace off, like, you get the feeling she's just letting it out, like, the kids are gone, she can sit there and, like, let it out and have her wine and just do what she needs to do to process. And then before you even have a chance to react, like, she's pulling out this firearm and bam. Like, I didn't even have a chance to like look away once I realized what was going to happen,
quick.
being the chicken that I am. And the kids, I mean, I would guess Aiden, Bill from It, he's probably what, 13, 14, and then
Somewhat.
Mia's probably like 10-ish, or at least that's how old she's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Um, so you just see these poor kids are going through this horrible, horrible experience. And then 6 months later, their dad's like, oh, hey, by the way, um, Grace and I are getting married. And it's becomes very apparent very quickly the kids are not fans of her. Aiden calls her a psychopath and makes some reference to a book that his dad had written that she was in. So at that point, I was like, this dude went off, whether he's a journalist or a psychologist or whatever he's doing, like he got some story and found this hot young thing that has basically like ruined his marriage at this point because he decided that he was more interested in that than
Yeah.
staying with what he had. Um,
And we
and
have
the
to mention
next,
this hot young thing was in a cult and
yeah, like you
recovering and
see,
has all kinds of psychological issues from recovering from a cult.
yeah, because the kids do a search for her,
Hmm.
and find like newspaper headlines from I think she was 12 when the cult like pulled like a Heaven's Gate kind of thing, and it was
Yeah.
a mass suicide. Um, and you see her as a kid, like holding this camera and going through and recording everybody being dead. And she feels like a psychopath at that point. And as someone who has had three different stepmoms, I can kind of relate to like the kids' feelings about things because it's like, oh God, another one.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, they blame her for their mom killing herself because, they feel like if she hadn't been around, then their parents would still be together and everything would be fine.
Yeah.
Um, so then, as if the dad can't make any worse decisions, um, he ends up leaving them all together at this house in the mountains over Christmas because he has to go back to the city to work. So it's like, oh, hey, I'm gonna put oil and water in the same room and see what happens, and it'll be great. You guys will get to know each other, and it'll be wonderful. Um, and spoiler alert, it's not wonderful. It's so crazy that you know, golly gee, that's what happened. So it's just a mess from the beginning because the kids can hear them at night. The kids aren't stupid, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, People never give kids enough credit, I think, when it comes to stuff like that. So they know, they're messing around. And at one point, Sarah finds a winter hat to wear, and they're like, that's my mom's hat. Um, so it's one of those things where I wanted to feel bad for her because like every step she seemed to make was like the wrong one, but she also didn't really seem to care a whole lot.
Yeah.
So it was kind of hard to also feel sorry for her. Um, and at that point, like I was just like, these poor kids. I just, I'm so sorry. Your dad is so dumb. Um, so that was pretty much my fixation for everything that happened. I'm like, well, if the dad wasn't a jackass, this wouldn't have happened. And
Yeah.
then there's like dog death and all these strange things start happening, which I have to admit, like for the kids to pull off was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Um, because we don't know it's them at first, but like all of the food in the fridge is completely cleaned out. All of a sudden, it's gone, and their power's out, and all of their stuff is gone, um, and they just start messing with her head and like taking her meds away when she very clearly still has reason to be on medication. And which was another thing that drove me nuts. Like, why not, obviously not everybody with any kind of mental illness recovering from traumatic experiences has the potential to be harmful. Um, but knowing that you are putting them into a stressful situation and leaving your kids in a stressful situation with them, like that just doesn't,
Yeah.
give them time to get more comfortable around each other before you
Yeah.
just throw them
Throw them to
into
the
a
wolves.
lodge. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, with no vehicle of their own. Like they're just stuck there.
Uh,
Um,
and the claustrophobia in that movie and the aloneness. It's
yeah.
just,
And
man.
it did just feel cold. Like the thing or a lot of other movies that take place like in the Arctic where you can just kind of feel that like in your
Yes,
bones.
you can
Um,
feel that in this movie.
yeah, you can.
It's and the thing that happens is by the kids staging everything and taking away Grace's medicine, they trigger her religious psychosis.
Oh
And
yeah.
so they have her thinking that she has died and that she is in purgatory and that she is being punished for her sins. And that's when things just get crazy. And that's when the whole unraveling happens at the
Yeah.
end and Grace gets full blown into her religious psychosis and goes back to all of the things that the cult had pushed on her.
Because of
This
course her
movie,
dad was the leader.
yes, her dad was a leader. That's a good point to bring out. And he was the leader of the cult, which was why she was so traumatized. So you've got uh, religious trauma. You've got trauma from the kid's mom unaliving herself. You've
Hmm.
got the trauma from the new lady taking trying to take mom's place, the dad doing dumb decisions. It's just like the whole thing is just it's like every bad decision you can think of
Yeah. It's like Murphy's
happened.
Law, except
Yes,
they're all conscious decisions.
yes. And then the end, it does not have a happy ending, as you can imagine. Like you go into it and you know this is not going to end well. Like
Yeah.
there's no happy endings with this one.
No. Which I mentioned it was
But
kind of
see,
bold because we said it's what, American English or American British
Nick,
collaboration.
yeah, yeah,
Anybody that watches international or foreign films, French horror is like the WTF of horror. Um, and this has the feel of a French film or
hmm,
like the original Speak No Evil, which I believe is Dutch. I haven't watched the American version because I heard it's not quite as effective, but also the way that movie hit me, I did not have any interest in watching that one a second time either. And I got a lot of Hereditary vibes, the way they utilize the dollhouse in this one,
yeah, uh-huh,
to show different scenes, like like what the mother built in Hereditary, and kind of, I mean, in addition to Grace's religious psychosis, one of the things that has poor little Mia so horrified is, this whole time, like when she's grieving afterwards, there's um that concept in different denominations where if you commit suicide, you don't go to heaven. So
yeah,
this poor little girl, however long they've been going to church, because and Laura, the mother, was clearly religious.
hmm,
Um, there's a lot of iconography.
hmm,
Why do my words sound weird? Um, but there's a lot of crosses and stuff around, and it just adds so much to this poor little girl's distress that she is convinced that her mother's going to end up in this horrible, horrible place. All because she was just so distraught emotionally that
hmm,
she felt like she had no other options.
yeah,
Um, which seems really screwed up. Like it's like punishment on top of punishment to be like, well, nothing else worked for you. So hey, that sucks that you decided that was your only option, but I hope you didn't expect it to get any better because you're gonna go to a place that we say is horrible. So it's
yeah.
like, well, shit.
And that's why the majority of theologians and scholars reject that view as not being taught in in scripture because it denies the whole fundamental work of the cross and the idea of grace. Um,
Mm.
and it's like, and it gets into this, the whole concept of sin, right? So many times in our culture, sin is presented as it is something that is to be punished, and it has to be punished out of people. And the more you can beat on somebody with the Bible, the more you can do this, the more you can do this, the more you can instill fear in them, then you can make them stop sinning and you know do what God wants. And that's not how the gospel works. Like, sin is presented, it is a disease that we are infected with that we need to be healed from. No amount of punishment is going to um, rid of rid us of that. We need healing, and the cross is presented as healing. It's Jesus reaching down and he heals us. His hands heal that disease because he became human for us. So he takes that disease upon himself and removes it, and he begins that healing process of restoring all the things that it has damaged in our hearts and in our minds and in the world, and we're to go and do likewise. And so this concept of that sin has to be punished in order to be driven out of somebody is anti-gospel, right? Like, the punishment was that Jesus suffered the wages of sin so that he could heal us. And so that's why you see so many people kick back against that concept today, but it's still around. It's
Yeah.
definitely still around and still taught.
The
Uh,
irony is it's a lot, I mean, because I think usually when I think of that concept, it's Catholicism that kind of pushes that more heavily, right?
yeah, it has. It
Um,
has in the
and then all of the major cults, like Scientology and things like that, where they're like so much more hardcore than everybody else. Um, it's just, I don't understand. As with most things along those lines, I'm bugging you with questions all the time because I'm just like, I don't get this.
Well, the crazy thing about this movie is, if you pick up on it, right, talking about the unaliving angle, right? Uh, the mom, Laura, does it, and it's a tragedy, and the kids are questioning where she goes. Now, how Grace was raised, unaliving was the way to eternal life.
Yeah,
And so there's that contrast that you see in the movie as well. Same act, but two totally different viewpoints on it.
yeah.
For
Because they
her,
they
and
very much, was it, did they do poison too, or was it all gunshot? I don't remember, but it was very Heaven's Gate feeling where it was like this is what we have to do to go be with God.
yeah,
Um it was like the final step to preparing themselves, or like
yeah,
Jonestown,
right.
anything along those lines really.
And there was this, that idea that the more you make your body suffer, the closer you get to God. And that, again, that whole penance thing, that sin has to be beaten out of you.
Yeah, which
And
felt very like 1800s ish.
it did. It did. Like, when she
Like,
puts that log, she takes the log
yes.
out of the fire and kneels down on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was, oof. And I think that was right after, like, she went and was like shuffling around in the snow on her knees and then came in and went straight to the burning logs.
yeah, yeah. So you've
Nope.
got all of that cultish stuff with the trauma and the abuse and the whole really kind of false gospel thing going there with the punishment of the body. Um, but the other things I picked up on in this movie is that all the people, the kids, Grace, and I would even venture to say the dad, they all had some kind of unprocessed grief and trauma, and it all comes out in horrible ways, right?
Oh yeah.
His comes out by trying to force the kids and Grace upon each other to have this big happy family. The kids' trauma comes out by all of the gaslighting and manipulation that they do to Grace to stage everything to make her think
Yeah.
that she is going crazy. And then of course Grace herself, with all, she falls back into that false reality very, very quickly.
Yeah. And it was crazy like how thought out and how well planned the kids process was, as far as like I'm assuming they just wanted to like drive her off. It's not like they wanted anybody to get hurt. They just
Right.
wanted her to go away. Um and communication, just some basic communication would have solved so many things. And I know that's like saying, well, they shouldn't have split up in a horror movie, or they should have stayed out of the basement. If they just talked to each other, it would have been fine. Um, but obviously, when Aiden refers to Grace being a psychopath, the father, Richard, at that point should have been like, okay, they've looked up enough to have a general idea of what her background is, but obviously they don't have, or maybe they did have a good understanding of it and she really is a psychopath. But either way, like, I need to sit down and have a conversation with them about this. I can't just like brush this under the rug and expect it to go away.
Yeah.
So his not sitting down with them the way he should have at that point um, was just dumb. Um, and
Yeah,
then,
it's
I
a
mean, as
total
the
total disregard for the kids' feelings and emotions and
oh
where they're
yeah, like, and I know, I mean, coming from a child of divorce, like I know for parents it's tough because you're trying to walk that line of like you have to continue on with your life, but also like if your kids hate who you're with, life is going to be really hard.
at. Hmm.
Um and it seems like he just could not care less that, 6 months ago these poor kids lost their mom in this horrible, horrible situation, and now he's trying to force another mom on them. Um, and they obviously, like you said, they all this unprocessed stuff. They've obviously not been to any kind of therapy or anything like that. Um, there's just still so many hangups they have. Totally understandable, and
Yeah,
it's just an ode to horrible parenting. It was just
it is. It is like I see this one as like this. Okay, I know I wouldn't call Richard in this movie a full blown narcissist with narcissistic personality disorder,
I think he's just
but
stupid.
a lot that he does rings very similar to
Mhm.
it. Like just the total, like the way he was with the mom about the divorce and I'm marrying her,
Yeah,
and just totally blowing her off and moving on like nothing. And then the way he was when the mom died, and then
yeah,
pushing Grace on the kids, and total disregard for, it was all about himself. It
yeah,
was all about himself and what he wanted, and he wanted her, and it almost seems like he wanted her to replace the mom
yeah,
in a lot of ways. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but there was a lot, because having been on the other side of that and gone through that myself, like I can see so many similarities with narcissistic personality disorder, even though he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
but there were just so many striking
Wow.
similarities and just total
Red light.
disregard.
Stole my
Ripley,
blanket.
wanna put a word in?
Oh, she's left for the recliner. It's got her favorite blanket in it. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, he's very much focused on what he needs to be happy and what everybody else needs to be doing to make him happy.
right.
Um, I mean, the kids obviously weren't thrilled. Like, I think it's like right after the funeral, and he's like trying to comfort Mia, and she's just like screaming for him to go away.
Yeah.
So poor Aiden, comes in and makes himself a little bed on the floor, and they go to sleep holding hands, and it's just like the
Dude,
most heartbreaking.
Mia's cry in that movie, the way that that girl cries, oh
Yeah,
my god,
it
that
is so convincing.
yeah, that breaks your
Um,
heart.
yeah, like later on when Grace's dog disappears and then is found dead later on, um, Mia was like unconsolable, and she said it was all her fault because she accidentally left the door open, and at that point Grace was already well on her way to her breaking point,
Mhm.
so it didn't make much of a difference. But it's if I hadn't been so biased, I think, as far as just immediately like these poor kids, like regardless of what they do, it's not their fault that they've been put in this situation and they didn't grasp the consequences, the potential consequences of what they were doing. Um, it's almost hard to figure out who to root for because they all have likable moments and then they all have like weird I don't like that kind of moments. Like when Grace catches Aiden looking at her when she got out of the shower. So
Yeah,
awkward. So
yeah.
awkward. And of course, like as a woman, that's gonna gross me out. Like if I'm dating somebody and their like 13, 14-year-old son is like trying to get a peek, it's like, what? No, gross, go away. Um, and it is I blame the dad so hard in this because he just
Oh, yeah.
set it's like he placed all the pieces on the board in the worst places they could possibly be under the worst circumstances and was like, okay, cool, see you later, and just like took off and you know let the cards fall where they may.
Leave them isolated and alone, which is something you never do with somebody who's gone through trauma.
Right.
Um, I mean, leave them that isolated and alone. I know even through what I went through, and the isolation and the aloneness at times just made it worse.
Yeah.
Uh, but I will say this. Okay, looking at this from trauma recovery and someone who's not, I mean, obviously I was never in a cult, didn't deal with religious abuse like Grace did, but have had somewhat of a share in it through churches I have experienced, and then going through, MPD and living with that, and having been exposed to that type of abuse. There were things that I picked up on in this movie that were so characteristic of CPTSD and survivorship. And I thought that the way that they portrayed Grace and that was brilliant. I think they hit the nail on the head. Like you've got
Yeah.
this kid who's raised in a high controlled fundamentalist cult, and you see her hypervigilance, her flashbacks. Her one of the key things is being able to distinguish guilt from reality because
Yeah.
that whole guilt becomes her reality, and she lives under this terror of divine punishment that God is out to get her. and to punish her, and then the disassociation that she has, especially the disassociation that happens under the stress, right? Like the kids, they take away everything she needs to stay grounded. They take away her meds, the heat, the
Her
food,
dog.
all of her personal belongings, her dog, the technology, like everything. So she has nothing to ground herself.
Yeah.
And she just begins to go into this loop. She's in this enclosed space with nothing to ground her, the silence, like just the claustrophobia, not being able to get out and go anywhere. It is, it's you, if you sat down and drew up a recipe for disaster, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, I think the writers sat down and was like, what is a huge recipe for disaster? Let's make a movie
No
about it.
shit. What is literally the worst possible situation we could put them in? Like, what's the emotional equivalent of a nuclear bomb? And okay, well, let's go with that.
Oh man, it is.
And it
And
was,
it's like, it's a perfect, not just Christmas, but that winter horror movie, like that isolation, that claustrophobia, like you said, the thing you can feel the cold.
yeah,
It has that that demise into craziness, almost like The Shining does, too,
yeah,
because you can see it, just the sanity slowly just dropping to nothing.
yeah. I think I think that was part of what annoyed me so much too. Like, even though I feel like the concept itself was definitely original, um, it felt very, very heavily connected to slash influenced by other movies. Like,
Hmm.
every time they showed a scene in the dollhouse, all I could think was of the miniatures from Hereditary. So that kept
Yeah.
kind of pulling me out. And with the cold, I'm trying to think. Definitely The Shining. There's another movie where they're trapped in a house. Oh, I'm sure there's several, but I can't think of the name of
Oh,
the
that
one.
horror movie where they're trapped in the house with that guy and they do that thing.
Yeah, that horror movie.
That
They do the
one,
thing with the people trying to avoid that bad thing. Um, you know.
and they die.
Yeah, and people die. Um, but it almost at some points felt like an amalgamation of other movies more than its own
Hmm.
movie. Um, which I'm all for, obviously a lot of these classics are going to influence people. I mean, that's, the movies that people grew up watching if they were horror fans from a young age, unlike me, um, who is very late to the game. But, there's going to be some influence, and I think it's fun when you can find Easter eggs and stuff like that, but when it's such a heavy influence that you're like, "Oh, well, that reminds me of that. Oh, well, there's that again. Oh, look, there's that again. Oh my gosh, let me guess. This is what's next." It starts to, I guess, the suspension of disbelief is what it kind of starts to
Hmm.
hit with. But I mean, for being a couple of younger kids, like they pulled off one hell of an advanced uh, plot to drive someone insane.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, like where he acted like he hung himself and was like, "Look, we can't die. We're already dead."
Yeah.
Um, that I mean, that screwed with me, and I was not. At least I don't know that I have any psychosis. I'm sure depending on who you talk to, they would tell you otherwise. But um, even for me, that scene was like, holy shit. And
Yeah.
realizing that, they had staged it all. It, I mean, kids are always terrifying, but that was, that felt like a very advanced slash mature plan. as
Yeah.
far as what they wanted to do with at the same time not understanding the consequences of what they were doing.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you about the copycat stuff. I feel like that's what took this movie down a couple notches for me
Mhm.
because it felt like it wanted to be its own movie, but then it kind of drifted into, and I don't know if they did that because they were wanting to show, like an homage to the influences or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it almost with the kids, it's almost to the level of absurdity that they could come up with this. Very close.
It kind of is.
It's very, very, very close.
Yeah. Cuz I
Um,
mean, all we see them kind of doing as far as research is that they're able to find the actual video that she recorded after all the other members of the cult killed themselves.
yeah,
Um, and then, we never really get a full explanation of what this book is that Richard wrote, just that, she's featured in it. Um, so, it's
yeah,
for them to be doing that kind of research. And I know that 14, 13, or 14 today is not what 13 or 14 was 10 or 15 years ago. Um, but to know exactly what buttons to push and how to trigger her was it was pretty advanced, it feels like, for kids their age.
yeah. And the thing I would have liked to see more of is because, like, I do like the subtlety in the fact that you really have to pay attention when they're in the cabin and all this is happening. That it feels like you're just, the reason they don't show everything is you're just seeing this from Grace's perspective,
Yeah.
from her skewed perspective, and it makes the reveal, hit harder. But I almost don't. I mean, I get you play with the tension, and you do this in writing too. Is like, how much do you reveal? How much do you keep hidden? Like, to obtain some sort of mystery there. But it's almost like they didn't give us enough of Grace's cult background, and
Yeah.
I wish they could have done more with that. Like, maybe showing the kids reading and learning more about it, because it's just like they really gave us was, oh, she was in this cult, this religious cult that unalived themselves, and she was traumatized, and then they
Yeah.
showed the little video, but we're never given much more background than that. And
Mm-mm.
it's like, look, okay, yeah, I get this movie's an hour and 45 minutes, but look, tack on 5 more minutes for that, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I
It's
think it
almost
would make a
like
more complete story.
it's like the kid version of like Ocean's 11,
Yeah.
where, they're putting together this insanely elaborate plot. Um, like I said, specifically aimed at just the right triggers, like how they have the recording of her dad's voice that they play,
Mhm.
and the hanging themselves thing, and just trying to like hiding everything, like because they're it's also surprisingly mature. Like they had to suffer right along with her with this stuff, like with the food disappearing and things like that. Like I feel like with a kid, typically, if you're trying to pull a prank on somebody or whatever, the second it affects you, you're like, how committed am I to this really? Because kids,
Yeah.
you're shorter sighted as a kid. Um, so for them to go to the lengths they did and not slip up, because like I said, Mia's like 10 or 11 here.
Mhm.
Um, And they acted, not they're acting in the movie, which was great, but they're acting as the kids in the movie, with what their plan is and how they're trying to get to her was, I feel like there are adults that would struggle to come up with a plan that solid.
Yeah, I would agree. It's like while the movie is effective, I'll give it that. It is still effective, um, but it's got its hangups. It's
Yeah.
got its issues. It is not a perfect movie by far. I think you fix some of these things, and you got a movie that's about a to me, it's about a 7 or a 6, and you bump this thing up to a 8 out of
Yeah.
10.
And
Um,
as much as I've like picked it apart because like I said, I admitted that it like pushed all of my buttons. It's still like the fact that it makes you feel that strong of an emotion, good or bad, is always something that speaks volumes
mhm,
for it. Like I said, anybody that's seen the original Speak No Evil, um, just that discomfort and the horror at what happens, um, that sticks with you just as much as, some crazy fun slasher with amazing kills that, has this insanely bloody, awesome ending.
yeah,
Um, this was just like the emotional version of a slasher was was pretty much the how it boils down. Um, and the cinematography was great. The way
yeah,
they captured the environment they were in. Um, it's my a lot of my issues with it are very much like personal things. Again, like the
mhm.
dog death. Like kill people. I don't I probably shouldn't say that on YouTube. In horror movies, go ahead and eliminate all of the bipedal people that you want.
Hominids,
Um
all the bipedal hominids.
yeah. But dogs, like dogs never do anything to deserve that. A person at some point, somewhere along the line, has done some horrible things where you can be like, all right, I get that. But a dog?
And I think that's where the kids realize they screwed up bad.
Yeah. Yeah, because then she kind of just snaps and she's just sitting on the porch, uh, cradling the frozen corpse of this poor dog.
Yeah,
Like, I think she was still petting him.
yeah, she
Um,
was.
and she had explained to Mia that, she'd always wanted a dog when she was little, but her dad never let her have one. So, part of her process was getting herself this dog. And it was like a symbol of her starting fresh and starting her new life. And now this symbol of that as a cute white fluffy snugglebug um is gone. So they did well with, I would say, the symbolism and things, the isolation and just how alone she really is through all of it.
Yeah,
And
that dog, that was her last thing grounding her,
mhm,
and
yeah.
gone.
And even the kids, like, they had each other, but there's only so much they can do for each other psychologically, both being children.
Yeah,
So really, I mean, they were pretty freaking alone too, because they obviously weren't getting much in terms of support from their dad. So it was it was just a lot. And I think the scene, because they actually all fall asleep watching the thing. And I'm
thing.
pretty sure that's the scene they show on the TV also, is when the Huskies get taken over by the thing. So it was just like karate chop to the
That that's
feels.
that's when you messaged me and was like, "If this dog dies, we're gonna fight." I
I
was like, "Uh-oh,
swear.
I forgot. Whoops."
I just I it's almost like a sixth sense. Like I see an animal in a movie and it's either like this could go bad or it's
Mhm,
like, oh, this is definitely going to go bad and I'm not going to like it. And I'm like, okay, cover their eyes, cover their ears. I don't want them to see this. That's scary for them.
mhm.
Um and then, I just like spend the rest of the evening thinking about their own mortality. It's
Uh,
rough.
this this movie though, it will stick with you.
Oh
It
yeah,
will it will
absolutely.
stick with you. So I'm glad we did this first. So if you're watching holiday horror this Christmas, watch this movie first because it will
Get it out
stick
of the
with you.
way.
Yeah, this is not one you wanna watch like Christmas Day or Christmas Eve.
No.
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 Go ahead and watch this at the beginning of the holiday season because it's gonna stick with you a few days, and then you're gonna wanna go watch, like, something else more fun to kind of shift gears, which is why we are
Yeah.
doing the mean one next week. We're
Yeah.
gonna have some
And
fun.
also, like, it's not heavily focused on Christmas. Like, that plays some part in it, but it's mostly just when it takes place. Um, so it's kind of a good way to like transition into December.
Yeah.
So
Or transition out, like, if you wanna watch it at the end and you wanna get into more winter horror.
yeah,
So, beginning or end, not in the middle. That is wouldn't you agree?
yeah.
Definitely. Well,
Like Christmas Eve, and you bust out a movie for the family to watch together.
yeah. Hey,
Let's
kids.
watch this one.
This is a movie on parenting.
Yeah.
I failed to mention it's how not to parent.
Ugh. It's just as important to have examples of what not to do as it is to have examples of what you should do.
How how not to blend a family,
Right?
you
Oh
know?
my god. It
Like,
just
ugh,
I want to be Oprah and be like, you get a therapist, and you get a therapist, and you get a therapist, because everybody in this film needed one.
yeah, and they never really explain the dad other than he wrote this book and he has to go to work. They
Yeah.
never really explain much of what he did or why he wrote the book.
No. Or what, I mean, what the whole point was, if there were other people in it, or if it was just focused on, like, her.
Well, I'm saying
Um,
we need more backstory for this. I think it would have been more
yeah.
effective. I mean, not that it's not effective, but I think it would have added a layer of depth to it that it lacks. And I
Yeah.
think that's
And
my
honestly,
biggest thing is there's a layer in spite of all the other depth that it has, there is this layer that it's missing, and that's it.
and I kind of wonder, the what if questions, but for being as reliant on her medication as she is, I'm surprised that there wasn't an element to it of like her having a psychiatrist that she could call like when things got bad. Um, I mean, I know everybody's phone dies at some point, anyways, um, but that doesn't even come up. Like, she doesn't have any particular coping mechanism that she goes for
Mhm.
or anything like that. It's just pop a pill, wait for it to go away, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um, so that was also kind of surprising because I would expect her to be like meeting with her therapist 5 days a week, um,
especially
trying
before
to,
going up there.
yeah. Um, so that seemed, but that's, again, kind of being nitpicky. If you just sit there and watch it for what it is, like, I mean, it is definitely very unsettling from however perspective or whatever perspective, whoever you feel sorry for, whoever you don't feel sorry for, whoever you blame for it. Um, you're going to be affected somehow.
Yeah. That's what we do on this show is we pick it apart, right?
That's true. I'm usually not that nitpicky, but it just I said this movie just pushed like all my buttons. Um so I spent the whole thing like sitting here going, you know what? If that dad wasn't such a jackass, this wouldn't be a problem right now. You know,
Yeah.
if he'd actually taken care of his kids the way he should have, this wouldn't be a problem right now. And why in the world would he leave his kids alone? Why would he leave her with kids? Like, why would he do that to her? And
I'm just glad I got this movie to you, and I'm glad it elicited such an emotional response from you.
well, that makes one of us. It was, and that too, like, kind of leads me to believe that he, not to say that journalists don't really understand things, but it doesn't seem like he would be any kind of mental health professional or working with her in that capacity, or else
Mm-mm.
he would have had a much better handle on everything in general.
He would have never
So,
done that
yeah. And I think, doesn't he say something about the newspaper or something at one point, like when he's
in
having to go in for
passing.
work?
I think so.
So, but regardless, he's stupid. Um, he just, and now I'm mad knowing that he was Thorin, because Thorin is like amazing and I love him. And then he had to turn around and be this dumbass dad who
Yeah.
just irritated the crap out of me.
Richard, that's good acting, though. It's good acting.
It is like when you
Good.
find those people that are really good at being a bad guy.
Yep. So, moral of the story is don't be a horrible parent.
And don't kill the dog.
Leave the dogs alone.
Crying out loud. The dog didn't do anything to you. And even if it did, it probably wasn't the dog's fault.
Mm-mm. Not the dog's fault. So,
No.
but we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for tonight. Be sure to come tune back in next week as we dive into the mean
Mhm.
one. This will be
It's
fun.
so fun.
It'll be a fun challenge for me to try to pick out something deep and
It,
theological,
it will
philosophical.
be. I'm excited to see what you come up with.
I come up with. Yes, I like the challenge. So tune back in next Tuesday night at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. Tasha, any parting words before we get out of here?
Don't kill the dog.
Don't kill the dog. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you again next week.